Horrible teacher fails to do his job, so we got him fired. Hello fabulous Reddit peeps. I've been contemplating posting this story on here for a while now, but life just kept getting in the way. So here we are, finally. Quick note, the majority of this took place when I was around 16. Also, this is a long story. Just a fair warning. When I was in secondary school I had a teacher, Mr. Geller for the sake of this post, who absolutely hated me. He was pretty popular with the cool kids at school. He'd stop teaching to talk to them, joke around, and generally act like one of the kids in the class rather than the teacher. Which is fine, I guess, apart from the fact that he was so busy joking around with the popular kids that he'd fail to actually teach his class properly, and our work would suffer because of it. Over half his class failed their exams, and the other half, bar a handful of students who were really good at the subject, managed to just barely pass after going to a bunch of tutoring classes in the weeks running up to the exam. I genuinely don't know how he managed to keep his job for so long. I had, and still somewhat have, some pretty severe anxiety issues to the point where I'd sometimes not go to school due to the panic attacks. I was never bullied by any of the students, but just the thought of being surrounded by a bunch of loud, hyperactive students was enough to make me physically ill. As a result of this, I would often be allowed to work in one of the pupil support bases. Essentially a small room that I could work in by myself, and would receive support from one of the learning support teachers if needed. This also allowed me to leave the class, with permission from the teacher of course, if I was having a particularly bad day, and go to the base to calm down and complete my work. Mr. Geller was not a fan of this. Whenever I would ask him if I could go to the learning support base, he'd always tell me no, and then mock me in front of everyone about how this was the reason I was failing his class. I was just barely scraping passing his class. However, most of his class were in the same boat as me, and again, like me, the majority of them were doing pretty well in their other subjects. This was clearly down to his teaching ability, nothing else. My boyfriend, Alex, and a handful of other seniors would be in my class once or twice a week, and would often help explain things to myself and some other students if we were struggling, essentially doing Mr. Geller's job. This wasn't fair, as they had to neglect some of their own work to act like a teacher. Mr. Geller would again use this to mock me in front of the class, saying things along the lines of, "Now you boys make sure you keep your hands to yourselves, or we can continue with the lesson when the lovebirds decide to stop their flirting and pay attention." I know it seems trivial now, but at the time it was humiliating, as he never called anyone out other than me, and having the whole class essentially point and laugh at me and Alex, though they probably didn't mean any harm, was enough to make my anxiety skyrocket. I dealt with his behavior for months. The snide comments, mocking me in front of everyone, standing behind me when I was trying to work and scoffing about how awful my work was, stopping in the middle of a lesson to lecture me if I wasn't taking enough notes for his liking. I dealt with it all. My mental health was a wreck. The thing that finally broke me and made me decide to finally do something about it was when he failed me in one of my tests because I apparently cheated off Alex, who, might I add, was doing an advanced higher class, not the National 5 course we were doing. He was on a completely different topic from me, so there was no way I could cheat by looking at his page, and he was sitting 5 tables away from me. I physically couldn't cheat off him if I wanted to. At this point I was pissed. An emotional wreck, yes, but pissed. Alex and I decided to get back at this disgrace of a teacher. Now, for the revenge. I wasn't entirely sure how to go about this at first. Alex suggested reporting him to the head teacher, but if that happened, then everyone would know it was me. I didn't want to be the one that reported a popular teacher. Kids can be cruel. So Alex and I, and a couple of Alex's friends came up with a plan. Alex and his friends were not pleased with having to do a bunch of extra work to keep on top of their work, as they were too busy being ignored by Mr. Geller and teaching his class for him. Plus they were leaving at the end of the year, so if it fell back on them, then there really wasn't a whole lot anyone could do about it. Alex and his friends started recording all of their lessons on their phones. Mr. Geller joking around with his favorite students instead of teaching, telling Alex and his friends to help each other when they needed something explained to them, and having them essentially taking the place of teacher in his class. They also managed to record a couple of instances where Mr. Geller accused me of attention-seeking when I asked to go to the student support base after finishing all of the work he'd said in that class. This went on for weeks. We all met up and sorted through the recordings, made sure that we'd collected enough evidence. It was a long, grueling few weeks, but we managed. We'd been dealing with it for months anyways. We could last a few more weeks. One of Alex's friends suggested that I try and do my work elsewhere as much as possible, so that I couldn't be blamed for the recordings. So I did. There was a few raised eyebrows, but I was still getting my work for the class done. I had to do extra work at home to keep on top of it, but I had to do that anyways, whilst I had some time to myself both in the base and at home. I essentially stalked Mr. Geller's social media. It wasn't too hard to find. I couldn't find a whole lot on his social media. The only thing worth noting was his friends list. He had all his favorite students on his social media. I couldn't find a whole lot of stuff that he'd been tagged in or anything, though I did scan through the students' profiles and found that he'd commented on a lot of their posts. Most of it was harmless banter, but there was a few comment thread that I found he was talking crap about some other students. He made fun of a boy whose mother was a recovering alcoholic, a girl with dyslexia, and a girl who had reported a couple of the popular kids for bullying her. This is just to name a few. I was in the list of students he liked to make fun of when he thought no one would notice. It did a number on my anxiety seeing my classmates and teachers saying these things, but I pushed through and read them all. I decided to screenshot whatever I could find and sent it to Alex. I also took the screenshots of all the disgusting things he was saying about the other students and emailed them to their parents, or whatever parents I could get the email addresses of. Needless to say, they were not happy. After we'd gathered enough evidence, we sent an email to the head teacher with everything attached. We never got all the details on what happened to Mr. Geller, but we do know that the head teacher got some higher-ups involved. We're still not 100% sure if he decided to resign or if he was fired. All we know is that after the summer holidays, we had a new teacher. And surprise, surprise, she actually knew how to teach a class. I heard through a friend that Mr. Geller managed to get a job at another school a couple hours away. But that job didn't last very long. He either quit or was fired. He hasn't worked as a teacher since. According to his Facebook profile, he no longer has a wife. Rumor is that his marriage fell apart after he lost his job, though I'm not sure how true that is. Hopefully he's a better person now. I highly doubt it though. So that's my story of revenge. I'm not sure if it counts as pro-revenge, but my friend suggested I post it here, so I'm just doing what she says. Hope you guys are having a good day and staying safe. Bye. TLDR, teacher would mock me in front of class. Make the seniors essentially do his job while he joked around with his favorite students and spoke shit about kids he didn't like online. We recorded him being a shitty teacher and took screenshots of the crappy things he wrote online, which led to him either quitting or being fired. No longer a teacher. This was totally pro. Good job firing a shitty teacher. Let's call it pro. It's hard to stand up to adults, and teachers are notorious for getting away with being crappy at their jobs. Good on ya. I love seeing justice done. Fucking magnificent. I hate teachers that are like that. My grade 9 math teacher told me I could never become an archaeologist because I wasn't taking the required courses in high school. My first year at college, and I talked to the head of the department for classical studies, and she said I could. Back in 2018 I went on my first archaeological dig site in Italy. I never got the chance to rub it in my math teacher's face, but it felt so good. This is why we need teachers who want to teach students and want these students to pursue their dreams, not crush them. Well, when you're an asshole, you deserve anything that occurs. Love how this was all planned, set up and executed. This reminds me of an old post, wherein a student recorded all the abuse a teacher of hers hurled on her and played it to the school principal. Good job, op. I'm sorry this happened to you first of all, and to endure more bullying for collecting evidence, but hats off to you for standing up to it. Also, seriously, what's a grown man with a wife thinking acting like a child to seem cool to a bunch of SCH kids? Compensating much. Ugh. I had a teacher like this. The teacher was definitely bullying you by specifically pointing you out and laughing. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but proud you got revenge, lol. Most definitely pro. That teacher must have missed out on his own childhood and probably has self-esteem issues. SMH. It's a shame because there are a lot of children that use school as a safe haven from home, and to imagine them coming to school to only be ridiculed by their teacher is disgusting. Had a 9th grade algebra teacher who could not teach to save her life. Her first teaching job, and all she did was put the problem on the overhead and say, "How did I get this? I am an honor student, and if I knew that I'd been teaching the class." Bitch. We complained and principal sat in on class one day. We turned screws up on her big time. How'd you get that answer? Over and over. If you'd explained it before, we'd know it now. She was pouring sweat, barely finished rest of year, and was gone after. Excellent teacher for us the next year.
Nice.
Teachers who have favorites shouldn't really even be in the job. Nice job, smiley face. Che. National 5s were hard enough without shitty teachers. Hope yous all did well in the end. I am a teacher. Thanks for kicking this moron off your school. Are you from Scotland by any chance? I know this will blow up, but I don't know what to comment.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.